What it do, future millionaires? G Rose, Roosevelt for Prez, and I want to welcome all of you to a special edition of the Crypto Hour called Fireside. And this is where I interview developers, founders, etc. And I have a project called TruYou that a lot of people had been asking me about. And I would always say, hey, I'm not very familiar. I don't know who the founder is. And then all of a sudden the founder hits me up in the same thread and says, hey, I'm right here, nothing to hide. If you ever want to chat, hit me up sometime. So that's exactly what I did. I hit him up, we chatted. I want to present it to you guys. Now, this project is very early. It's still in its pre-sale. Full disclosure, I have not yet invested, but I do want to present it to you guys so you can get a feel for the founder and also let me know what you think in the comments, all right? Other than that, future millionaires, let's all thank Zach for doing this. And without further ado, let's get into it. All right, so what's up to all the future millionaires out there? As promised, I do have Zach Martinez, who is the founder of TruYou, and I'm delighted to have you on. Let's get started.
Absolutely.
So I guess where we'll start at is just kind of tell the people what TruYou is, right? Because I feel like at this point, a lot of people are familiar with you, but kind of tell people what TruYou is all about.
Yeah, of course. So the main premise behind TruYou is to bring online dating into the Web3 era, to introduce the new beautiful concepts introduced through Web3 into the online dating space. And then the benefits provided would only vastly increase the utility of the space, ideally, at least in a perfect world. So TruYou in general would be an AI-directed, user-governed. Ideally, it would be through user discussion and governance. Tokenized online dating platform. So we would also introduce a token within the platform that would kind of introduce the aspects of SoFi, which is social fi, kind of allowing for users to have utility beyond matching of other users, but financial, in a way, incentive based on the value on exchanges for utilizing the platform as well.
Nice. And so with that being said, I mean, of course, you have many options for blockchains, right? And so kind of talk about what made, Algorand attractive for you and, why you ultimately chose Algorand.
Yeah, of course. So initially, Algorand was not our first choice. When I originally just devised the idea for TruYou, I was already running a project on the Tron blockchain called Tron Loot. And so I saw the benefits provided through the speed and the cheap transactions and decided, hey, this might actually be a great avenue for the creation of a dating app as well if we're going to introduce tokenized incentives, because obviously those two aspects are going to be the biggest limiters. So originally I started with Tron when I devised the initial concepting, but of course Justin Sun comes with his own spice, and so it doesn't necessarily reflect beautifully on the crypto economy in general. So we started looking for more professional avenues in the space, and that's kind of where we came upon Algorand, where we were kind of weighing out AVAX on top of Solana, on top of basically trying to figure out Matic, of course, on top of trying to figure out exactly what blockchain would be the best fit. As far as crypto platform that has never failed, shut down, or experienced incredibly high traffic to limit to transactions to basically a halt, i.e. Solana, or other chains that are very limited on kind of the scope of the current dApps on their platforms. I saw that Algorand overall was basically, if you were to look at Ethereum in its early days with the initial projects that were being created on it, the initial DAO and everything else, the professionalism that started up initially is incredibly similar to what is starting up on Algorand. And if you missed out on that on Ethereum, then, I mean, let's not miss on that on the next possible best thing, which would be Algorand in that case.
Right. I definitely agree. And I find that a lot of developers kind of have that same sentiment as far as I think when they're actually looking at the tech and what's best to build on, it seems like Algorand is going to continue to kind of be that home for some of the top developers. Now, does building TruYou as a Web3 app or DApp, does it have its benefits over just like traditional Web2 apps like your Tinders or Match.coms or whatever hookup dating apps in the Web2 space? Does the Web3 component have its advantages in your opinion?
Oh yeah. Um, so I went into this project solely because I saw so many benefits. One being non-user verifiability, which I mean became such an issue that they created a Netflix special called The Tinder Swindler. So we
I
can
just watched that yesterday
oh,
too.
I saw it too. I mean, it was honestly
That
very well
was
made,
crazy.
but
Yeah, it was good.
it identified the problem very clearly, that when you don't have any sort of verifiability for the information that a user can provide on the platform, then basically anybody can say anything. And then why are you even spending your time potentially talking to a fake individual that is impersonating somebody else, obviously with the intention to potentially scam you out of in some sort of way. So user verifiability is one huge thing, and we're actually in talks with a current project on Algorand to potentially integrate their system for our user verifiability. I'm not sure exactly how much information on that I can share yet, but initial talks are in where we're trying to figure out exactly how we would move forward with them being the main avenue for verification for users on the platform. So, two, a lot of users on dating apps end up wasting a crap load of time. And in reality, it comes down to the major providers for in the online dating space, like Tinder, Hinge. They do like batch providing, where they just give you a massive amount of users in your area and then let you sort through on your own. So you end up swiping for hours and hours and hours, hoping that more people join later. Obviously, they have a limiter on their app so that you don't get 50,000 potential matches instantly that you swipe through, so that they can keep you utilizing the platform over time. But they do these batch matching, so it's highly inefficient, but it's worked thus far because people don't mind sorting in order to find that potential perfect match. Ideally, in a perfect world, we would have a system that adapts over time to user generated actions or profile information or information within their messages. In a perfect world, you would only have to spend maybe 5 minutes a day perusing the app in order to gain all the benefits of finding your potential match. So integrating an AI backend just to kind of sort through and figure out at least sort your potential matches by what the AI thinks is the highest possibility or probability of match is very important. So AI for efficiency. The third is tokenization. I mean, a lot of apps out there I've been keeping up with this space very closely. Tinder is introducing their own Tinder coin, but it's not a blockchain enabled token. It's solely a token within their app for purchasing little benefits. And it's their way of avoiding the cryptocurrency space while also delving into Web3 in their own tiny little way. And then we have Bumble that's venturing into the Web3 space through NFTs, it looks like, on their platform. And they could potentially be introducing some interesting features there too. So I'm actually keeping my eyes on that space as well, because if one wins, we all win. So I'm always for the group versus the singular individual. So if anything, those are the main benefits I saw when building TruYou and the idea behind it, kind of the structure of what we wanted to introduce to the world.
Nice. Thank you for that. And so one of the interesting components of this, and I don't know how much you want to speak on it, but something I thought was really dope. It's on the website. So that would be the VR dating, right? Virtual reality dating. How dope is that, right? I mean,
yeah.
But talk about the VR dating for a bit.
Absolutely. So from an AR VR aspect for dating, the idea obviously came way before the COVID pandemic, but it was reinforced by the COVID pandemic, where nobody was allowed to kind of come together. And so how can I introduce somebody else to your space, introduce you to a dating scene where I kind of predict that this world is going to move to a progressively, probably more antisocial state, given the fact that the last 2 years, all social activity, at least the predominance of it, has been shunted to online interactions. I mean, most businesses moved over to Zoom meetings, and we have a lot of the major corporations still within that structure. They're trying to adapt back to the structure that they had before, but this structure works so well. It's so cheap. Why? You don't have to pay for business and office space to do this. So the original idea for the VR/AR app is to fill that niche, to allow for somebody else to, you basically can pay with trust tokens on the platform to offer a VR date or an AR date. Obviously, they have their pros and cons. I figure AR would probably have to come first. That's what we're working on initially, because VR, you have to have all this special equipment and headset and all the things like that would eventually have to be integrated, assuming that you don't have the generic bifocal iPhone attachment.
Right.
So we introduced that to basically fill that niche, and with it came just an entire beautiful world of possibilities. I mean, you're not limited to have a date right here at your kitchen table. You can have a date in the Bahamas with the ocean to your right and the sun setting and the stars slowly progressively coming out. You can basically, in a sense, have a date anywhere at any time in history with anyone, because ideally you can choose an avatar if you want to. I mean, the purpose is to meet the person, to socialize, to get their personal data for your internal computer and figure out, do I like this person? I'm not going to share a whole lot of the possibilities that we've kind of explored with it, but that kind of gives a touch of the beauty that we've come up with so far.
Nice. Now, one thing that I like about the project as far as the token is the trust token has is that 100 million supply, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's kind of like the sweet spot that I like to be in, really, I can do 10 billion, but like if I can be like a billion or under is like where I want to be. But in your case, you have the trust token, right? And then you have the dividend token as well.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of wanted you to talk about, both of those, but kind of explain the difference and really what each one is going to be used for.
Of course. So these differences might devolve over time, because I'm in talks with the team to potentially integrate the dividend token directly into the primary trust token, kind of avoid all the extra confusion that could potentially be propagated through having this secondary structure in place. So it's something that we're exploring, but we haven't exactly 100% proven or approved of that idea yet. But the general idea is trust tokens are used for match pledging on the platform, which in a sense is you are allotting a certain portion of trust tokens. Let's say I want to give 10 trust tokens in exchange for 10 matches on the platform. So I can freeze, in a sense, those 10 trust tokens, get 10 matches. And if I was to match with an individual and they were to match with me too, then obviously that person would join the My Matches section of the TruYou app. If a person is to miss, two users are to miss, then half the trust token is burned, because in a sense, the half of your trust for that person is broken. You don't want to pursue further with that person. So emphatically, half of your trust is burnt with that person. But if you were to match with another person, both of you get both of your trust back. So there's an incentive in a way to match with individuals, but also you have to really think about, because there is technically a monetary value implied on the trust token, you have to think about your match or miss more closely. So you have to value the decisions from the platform more.
Right. Not just throw paint at the wall, because you got to be a bit more serious.
Exactly.
Before the next question, I did want to ask you, and I believe we spoke on this when we chatted before, but your passion for this project, where does that come from, right? Why are you the person to kind of bring this project to life?
Oh, absolutely. My I'm going to sound like I'm kind of tooting my own horn. My entire life has kind of been governed by this idea that I can accomplish anything that I set my mind to. And it's something that I've pushed myself in every aspect of my life to do. I'm currently an ICU nurse. I didn't become an ICU nurse overnight. It took me 5 years. I applied to the nursing program 3 times before I got in, not because of my grades. I had a 4.2 grade point average, but because the competition for getting into the program was so extensive and there's 300 applicants and only 30 people got in every single semester. Once I continued to apply every single semester just based on the idea that this is what I want to do and this is what I'm going to fight to do because I want to make a difference in the world. That was the absolute best way that I saw at the time to make a difference in the world, to treat the most vulnerable of the world and kind of give them a second wind and give them a second life. So that's why initially I chose specifically the ICU over med-surg or tele or, on wards or whatever else. The most sick patients, the most critical thinking, the most knowledge has to be gathered specifically for this one area in the hospital because no other area in the hospital can possibly treat them. I did it because it was difficult. I did it because I wanted it. TruYou is very similar. Initially, the idea behind TruYou, I have used every single dating app in the entirety of the space at least the 30 times, every single one. I have found the flaws within each one. My current relationship was through a dating app. My last relationship was through a dating app, and the relationship through that before that was through a dating app. So I've kind of just been inspecting this space and looking for the cracks, looking for exactly where improvements can be made to benefit the society. And once I saw that the Web3 implementations kind of brought to center stage, my brain started ticking. How can this be implemented to make this better overall, to make this system better?
And if there's one thing, with that being said, I mean, because you spoke on a few differences between the Web 2 and Web 3, but if there was one thing that you would say, hey, TruYou is going to be better because of this, out of all the Web 2 platforms I've used, this was the problem and TruYou was solving that.
User identity verification, I would say, is going to be a
There you go.
big thing. You have verifiability that can be backed by the blockchain. Once your identity is verified and you have an address specifically stacked to your name, that address is forever locked to the identity that's provided. And because blockchains are immutable. And so if you can provide that safety in an easy to use user interface, then you basically have the gold ticket